About 5 months ago, we bought the Fuji X-T100 to replace our Canon G7X as our main vlogging camera. We were attracted to it because it wasn't much bigger than our G7X, but it had the addition of interchangeable lenses and an external mic jack, which makes our workflow so much easier. But more recently, Fuji released the X-T3, and I was curious to see if it was worth the upgrade from the X-T100. So I rented it over the Thanksgiving holiday, and I'm not buying it yet. So just like the other tech review videos I've done, this isn't going to be a spec video. This is more about my experience using the camera for our purposes, which is YouTube videos, travel videos, and some photos. So for that, I need the camera to be small, lightweight, easy to use. It needs to have a front-facing screen, an external mic jack, and reliable video, audio, and autofocus. And by reliable, I mean something that I can point somewhere and know that it will generally get the shot without much fuss. So over the Thanksgiving holiday, I took a lot of photos, a lot of videos, just kind of throwing at it what I could to see how it held up. And to be honest, it was amazing. It was probably the best camera that I've used. The biggest thing that I loved was the manual control. So if you've ever used a Fuji camera before, you know how amazing the manual control is. These dials mean that you can get exactly the look that you're going for really quickly. And I love that about this camera. Also, what really drew me to this camera was the quality of the footage. I said I'm not going to do specs, but this is a spec that you need to know. This camera does 4K 60 10-bit F-Log internal. All of those things you can mix and match as needed, but basically what that means is you can get incredible footage from this camera internally without an external recorder. So normally to get all of that, you have to have $500 to $1,000 or more external recorder that you then plug into this through HDMI. But the fact that you can get all that internally without that extra gear and without that extra cost makes this incredibly enticing. And lastly, the autofocus on this camera is exceptional. I'd say it's even better than Canon's, which is a tall order. And it made getting the shot so easy. I pointed at something and then snapped right on exactly what I wanted. And you have this little joystick on the back here so you can dial in exactly the point if there's no faces or something, or if you don't have face detection on. So overall, the experience using this camera was great. But there are just a few things that make it not quite good enough to replace my X-T100. The biggest one is the price. So this camera, body only, is 3 times the price of the X-T100. And while, yes, you could say that you get 3 times the functionality or more out of this camera, to be honest, that's not something that really helps me. For instance, the 4K, excellent quality, but takes way longer to edit, way longer to export, and we upload in 1080p anyway. So it's kind of a moot point. The X-T3 does have 1080p at 120, which is nice, but 120 isn't the end-all be-all. 60p is actually good enough for most slow-mo, and the X-T100 has 1080p, 60p. Another big con about this camera is there is no front-facing screen. So the screen goes up, the screen goes down, and the screen goes sideways. That sideways. So if you're doing low shots like that, you can see down, but that's about it. If you're vlogging, can't see myself. Don't know if I'm in frame or if it's just my nose. Could be just my nose. Hey, maybe you want to see just my nose. That's cool. I'm not gonna judge. You could say that that's kind of a minor thing, and it is kind of a minor thing, but honestly, I already have the X-T100 and it has the front-facing screen, so why downgrade, essentially? And then the last thing, Also minor, but has a practical reason for being a con, is that the X-T3 is definitely larger and heavier than the X-T100. Looking at the photos online, I thought, oh, it's gonna be negligible. I'm not gonna really notice it, but I notice it. It's definitely larger, and when you have it out with your arm extended like this, you definitely notice it. There are a few things that are consistent between the cameras that I know that I can rely on. One of those is the lenses. Obviously, they're both Fuji X series cameras, so they use the same X series lenses, which means I can buy lenses for the X-T100, and then if eventually I do buy this camera, the X-T3, I can just put them on this camera, and then I don't have to buy anything else. I just buy the body. And I love that Fuji is going all in with APS-C. That really just means the lenses are going to stay small. They're not going to go full frame like all the other camera manufacturers are doing now, and then having to buy these new lenses that are for the full frame, and so they're bigger and heavier and more expensive. These lenses are going to stay the same, and they're going to work with Fuji cameras for many years to come. And they're also excellent lenses. I mean, there's that too. And finally, based on Fuji's track record, they continue to release firmware updates for older cameras and even new cameras to fix bugs, to add new functionality. For instance, the X-T2, which I think is a 4-year-old camera, it's gotten so many new features over those years that if you have the X-T2, it's almost not worth upgrading to the X-T3 if you're just doing photos. If you need video, I mean, the X-T3 is like head and shoulders above the X-T2, but they've definitely upgraded it over the years, and I'm looking forward to that for the X-T100. Even in the few months that I've had this, they've released a firmware update that improved the autofocus, fixed some audio issues, and I mean, they added some other random features that I'm not going to use. Future Derek here. So between filming this video and editing it, Fuji actually released a new firmware for the X-T100. They said they fixed some autofocus issues and some other stuff. They're pretty vague about it. I haven't had a chance to actually test the new firmware, but I will, and I will roll that into an update video that I'm going to be putting out soonish. I'm planning it right now. Anyway, just goes to show that they definitely value their current customers and will continue to update their cameras to improve them and add new features and such. With that said, back to the video. To sum it all up, the X-T3 is an incredible camera, and I am looking forward to eventually buying this maybe 6 months down the line when it's a little bit discounted. But for now, the X-T100, which is filming me right now, is more than adequate for our purposes. So with that said, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about either of these two cameras, the X-T100 or the X-T3. Let me know if you've bought either of them, what your experience is with them, what your favorite lenses are, whatever. Subscribe if you aren't already. Follow us on Instagram. And until next time, it's us against the world. Bye-bye.